Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1998 baseball comedy sequel, Major League Back to the Minors. Major League Back to the Minors, to me, is a perfect example of the career trajectory of a promising, talented, uh, pro baseball player. Somebody who starts off their career showing some flashes of talent, then in their prime is an all pro, and then by the time they reach the twilight of their career, they are a shell of themselves, and it's kind of sad and it's kind of pathetic. That's definitely how I feel about this film. And to be fair, I've seen worse comedies and I've seen worse sports movies and I've seen worse sequels. This still is not very good. The second film was a cash grab, but at least it was a cash grab that had a budget, had money behind it, had talent behind the camera, had a better cast, had some elements that were actually legitimately good, if not great at points. This doesn't have any of that. This is like a cash grab that's grabbing for loose change. That's hanging around in the bleachers at the ballpark. Major League Back to the Minors is written and directed by John Warren. And John Warren is a guy who, prior to this film, his only other movie was a movie called Curse of the Inferno, starring Pauly Shore. And it is arguably one of the most obscure and forgettable films that Pauly Shore has ever done in his career. So that's saying quite a bit, if you ask me. And after this, he never directed another movie again. And you can definitely see why. This guy is definitely the kind of director who is minor league talent. Minor league talent at best when it comes to the direction, uh, and nothing more than that. The pans, the zooms, the camera angles, the camera techniques, they're all, for the most part, pretty firmly below average. Wouldn't cut it in the big leagues. The way that he shoots the baseball scenes. Honestly, I've seen home movies that were shot by fans or by parents of little league games that are on the same level. Some might even have been better. I've seen entire sports comedies, like a beer league, for instance, that did a much better job with the physical comedy sequences as well as the actual baseball moments that were supposed to be epic or cool, or they're supposed to be a nice play. Um, Anytime this director is trying to showcase something that's supposed to be a highlight reel worthy play, it's just shot in a way that makes it lose the majority of its impact and the majority of its wow factor. It just looks very lackluster, just like the majority of this movie. And I don't really think a better director would have been able to squeeze that much out of this movie and out of this script and make it into something that was serviceable, let alone a good movie. But having a director who is just this weak and this bad doesn't really help it either. It gives it no chance. It really doesn't really give it an opportunity to have much buzz, let alone hit any home runs. As just a bit outside as the film's direction is, the screenplay is even more off the mark. To me personally, this screenplay is honestly pretty woeful by John Warren. It starts out with this pitcher named Gus who's playing in the minor leagues for the Miracle. He gets ejected from the game using a frozen baseball, and that's as dumb as it sounds. It really is. This is some cartoonish garbage. This is really silly and really dumb. And there's a lot of that in this script. Just really silly, dumb things. Frozen baseballs. A player on the team named Lance the Dance who does pirouettes and ballet dances his way down the bases. Um a nerd who throws a slow fastball. Serrano, who wears a blindfold for some reason while he's walking up to the plate. Tanaka, who copies Serrano. Um, just a lot of really lame, dumb attempts at comedy and just silliness that honestly remind me of a bad Police Academy sequel more than they remind me of a Major League movie. And the only connection you really have to the other two films is Roger Dorn. Roger Dorn is somehow now the owner of the Minnesota Twins. I don't know how he managed to pull that off because he had to sell the Indians back to Phelps in the second movie because he was so cash strapped. But I guess he somehow managed to to get enough money to buy the Twins. But okay, Dorn is the owner of the Twins, and he recruits Gus to be the manager of the Buzz, the Twins minor league team, because he wants him to mentor and bring up this talented hitter named Downtown Anderson. And the whole stuff with Gus is basically the exact same arc that Taylor had in Major League Two, but without the benefit of the doubt and without the fact that you already like this character and you've already seen him have a role with the team, like in the first movie. Here, you don't know jack squat about Gus Cantrell. You have no reason to care about him. You have no reason to root for him. You're just thrown into things right in the middle of it, and you're just supposed to just root for the guy because he's played by Scott Bakula. That's really honestly how this script is and how it works. I don't root for the guy because he's a minor league pitcher who never made it big in the big leagues and seems like an okay guy. It's like, okay, all right, cool, but that isn't enough of a reason for me to care about him. And the returning teammates from the other Indians team that show up here, it's not really fun to see them again. It's actually sad. It's sad to see Rube Baker stuck in the minor leagues because he lost the ability to throw the ball back to the pitcher. It sucks to see Serrano be on a washed up minor league team. It sucks to see um, Tanaka relegated to that. Well, not necessarily because Tanaka I didn't really care for that much, so it's fine if he's in the minor leagues. But Rube and Pedro, that's really honestly something that's kind of depressing more than anything else. And then the new players that are thrown in there, there's no fan favorites. There's no reason to root for them either. The ballet dancer, Lance the Dance, the surfer bra, Hog Ellis, the old man, Pops, Doc, the nerdy therapist who throws a slow fastball. Like, what a boring group of rejects and has-beens and never was. And there is some potential with the whole stuff with the Twins and the rivalry that the Twins manager Leonard Huff has with Gus, and then how it ultimately gets to the point where the Buzz play the Twins. But the way that it's written and the way that it's set up and the way that it plays out, it's not as fun as it sounds. It just feels like it's another instance of this screenplay just missing the mark, missing the point, and just whiffing at the plate. And why is it the Twins to begin with? I understand you don't want the minor league team to play the Indians because, oh no, the Indians are going to be the bad guys now. But that would be a way to kind of switch things up a little bit. And by the end of the film, because of the stakes that are set up with the rematch, if Gus's team wins, then he gets to manage the team. So then he could bring the Indians back to what they once were and get rid of the jerk off manager. Like, so I think there still was easily potential there to still have a story involving the Indians and still have it work. Not having the Indians at all makes this feel like a knockoff again. It really is another element that makes this movie feel like a knockoff of Major League and not like a legitimate sequel to the first two and just a cash grab through and through, but not even for big money, but for loose change. And then you have the whole thing with downtown. And downtown is cocky, and downtown has some issues with maturity, and eventually he winds up going to the big leagues because Huff is embarrassed after his team almost gets beat in the first matchup against the Buzz. So he not only turns the power off before they can get beaten in front of a massive group of people and the press. He also takes downtown with him, but downtown's not ready, so he struggles, and then he gets sent back to the minor leagues. And then the Buzz, for whatever reason, they start sucking again. They sucked at the start of the season, and then they got better, and then they started sucking again because downtown left, and everybody's like, oh no, we can't win without downtown. And then Gus says some generic pick me ups, and they decide to start winning again. And then it sets up a rematch of the Twins, but this time it's at the Buzz's home stadium and instead of in Minnesota. And of course, the Buzz predictably win. And Huff loses, and now he's got to coach the Buzz. And now Gus gets the opportunity to coach the Twins now. But he decides to pass, and he decides to continue to work with the minor league players. Which I'm like, why the hell would you do that? You've spent your entire life trying to get to the big leagues, trying to show people that you're not just a minor league talent, and then you just decide to stick with the minor league team. Like, it just felt like it was such a lame way to end this movie, and it honestly felt like he was just settling. And it wasn't a feel good ending to me that this guy is now just going to be coaching the minor leagues when he could be coaching and managing a major league baseball team. And that's what it felt like it was building up to. Okay, and it also ruins the tension when it comes to the rematch against the Twins because it never meant anything anyway. Because he was always going to choose to go coach the Buzz to begin with. So I guess Huff loses his job, but I mean, in all honesty, like if Gus turns the opportunity down, then Huff can just go back to managing the Twins, and there's nothing stopping him, really. It's just a bad screenplay in so many different ways. It feels like a knockoff of Major League. Dorn, I will give the writer some credit. He made Dorn into less of a goofball and a dumbass like he was in the second movie. So he was closer to the Roger Dorn from the first film. So I did like that. That doesn't mean it's a good screenplay. Doesn't mean it's a good story. Just anything about this that's kind of semi-functional and semi-decent, it's all due to either some of the actors involved or just the fact that these are proven cliches that can evoke certain kinds of emotions and can provide some feel good moments. But that's really all that this film has going for it. It's not that clever when it comes to its comedy. It's not that funny when it comes to its comedy. I mean, even Bob Uecker sucks in this. He was funnier when it comes to roasting this movie than anything he ever said in this. Because during a Brewers broadcast, Bob once talked about this film to his partner in the booth, and his partner asked. Well, actually, Bob asked his partner if he had seen the film, and his partner said he had, and then Bob said, "Well, don't. That movie was so bad that it opened in airplanes the week we finished it." Like, that is so damn accurate. That is such an accurate way to sum up Back to the Miners. And the movie was a massive bomb. It was one of the biggest flops for Warner Brothers in the year of 1998. So, and you can definitely see why. This script is a bomb. This entire concept is a bomb. This should have went direct to video, not to theaters. And speaking of bombs, the cast is not really, in my opinion, that great either. Like, it's not something that's like a total flop, but for the most part, it is. Like, Corbin Bernsen is Dorn. He's all right with the little cameo role he has, but he's in it for like maybe 2 minutes. Scott Bakula is likable enough as Gus, but you can tell that Scott just did this for a paycheck. It's a very lackadaisical, very lazy, very uninspired, and not very spirited performance by him. His own inherent charisma is still able to shine through, though. So even when Scott Bakula is not at his best here, and he's just kind of going through the motions, he's still charming enough to make it kind of work. But you could definitely tell that his heart is not in this. I mean, there's a multitude of scenes where he's just wearing sunglasses on the sidelines, and he's just completely just oblivious, and he's just like, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing now. We couldn't do the Quantum Leap movie, but we could do this. All right, fine. And then Bob Uecker as Harry Doyle. Like, I mean, what can he do? It's minor league baseball, and he's like commentating alongside this snooty guy. And it's just who I guess is the radio broadcaster for the Twins, and it's just really bad and sad and weak. Kenny Johnson as Lance the Dance sucks. Tom Barry is Pops is not that great. Eric Bruskotter, it's nice to see him again, but it's really sad to see that this is what Rube is now doing now. He's a minor league baseball player. Takaaki Ishibashi is Taka Tanaka. He's just as terrible as he was in the second movie. Dennis Haysbert, I mean, he's all right as Pedro, but like the stuff that he's given to do is lame as hell. Judson Mills is Hog Ellis. He does a great job playing a brain dead surfer, but it's not really a performance that's that memorable. Walton Goggins is decent as Downtown. I'll give Walton that. I would say out of this entire cast, other than Scott Bakula and Ted McGinley, is the only other actor in this that honestly delivered a performance that was at all worth anything. Peter McKenzie is Doc, just a very boring performance, just a nerdy guy who can't pitch. Ted McGinley was fun as the scenery chewing douchebag manager, Leonard Huff of the Twins. Uh, Jensen Daggett is Maggie Reynolds. I don't even barely even remember what she even did in this. And it was crazy as she was in Jason Takes Manhattan. And honestly, this is a worse sequel. And then you have Steve Yeager, who's back as Duke Temple. You know, Steve Yeager, who was in Major League. So I guess he's the only other person that was back, I guess, other than Eric Bruskotter, Takaaki, and Dennis. The cinematography is by Tim Scherstedt, and this is the same guy who did, cinematography for Teen Wolf and Critters and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like, this is the same guy who's done some good movies. This is not one of them. But you know what's crazy is the same year he worked on this, he worked on The Wedding Singer. So, it worked out still for him in 98. Um, but I'm not going to blame him because there's not much you could do with a movie about a minor league baseball team to make it look like something interesting or visually appealing or um, spectacular. The editing by O. Nicholas Brown and Brian H. Carroll is just meh. The music by Robert Folk. Uh, I don't even remember barely any notes of this score at all. I guess the one thing I remember the most about it is that it sounded very familiar and not in a good way. It just sounded like a very generic, very been there, done that, played out score. And the music, the original songs they used for the soundtrack also sucked. So I don't blame audiences for not wanting to see this in 1998 in record numbers. Because this film actually set a record for the lowest grossing movie to have, I think, over 100,000 theaters. So, yeah, this was showing in like over 100,000 I think 100,000 theaters or 100,000 screens, and it made such a low amount of money that it set records for futility. So, honestly, it deserves it because this is a pretty futile, pretty bad, pretty poor sequel. The best I can say is that it's inoffensively bad. It's that kind of film where it's like, okay, yeah, it sucks and it's bad, but it doesn't like upset me. It doesn't make me want to punch my fist through a wall, but it's still bad. And it's still something that definitely deserves to be relegated to the minor league in cinema history. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Major League Back to the Minors. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.